Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Jean.
Good morning, Rina. Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be here with you today. So, the fintech industry has experienced rapid growth and innovation in recent years, driven mainly by advancement in technology and changing consumer expectations. From digital banking and mobile payments to blockchain and AI, fintech innovation are reshaping the way we interact with financial services. However, this rapid transformation also presents challenges, such as cybersecurity risks, regulatory complexities, and the potential for disruption to the traditional financial institutions. As fintech continues to evolve, it's crucial to understand both the opportunities and the risks associated with these innovations. Today, we are fortunate enough to have with us a distinguished expert, Jean Pem, who will be sharing with us his insights on this implication of fintech growth, the lessons learned, and the path forward for ensuring a stable financial system. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Let's do this.
Thank you very much. Let's do it.
All right. So, as the Global Director of Finance at the World Bank, wow, this is amazing. I envy you. I want to be with you. You have a unique perspective on the global financial landscape. Could you please share with us your thoughts on the key trends in fintech adoption and their implications on financial stability?
Very good. So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Reina, and thank you very much to Sama for the invitation. So I'm going to state the obvious, which is that technology is completely transforming the financial sector. So we tend to focus sometimes on fintech, the new companies, but technology is also changing the incumbents. And I think that that's across the board, with a lot of innovation, new entrants, so a lot of competition, which is usually very good for customers. And we also see the deepening of the financial market. And I think what's really interesting, and we focus on that at the World Bank, is that some of this innovation is happening in emerging markets and sometimes leapfrogging and bringing new solutions to financial sector challenges that are particularly relevant. So fast payments, really important, affecting domestic system, but also cross-border. Micro-lending, really going to the bottom of the pyramid customers. Asset financing, which provide really new ways for SMEs to have access to finance. Investment, open finance, and we see the development of this in many countries, including in Saudi Arabia. So lots of opportunities for financial inclusion, economic growth, new players, and a lot of innovation, and substantive gains for consumers, investors, and the overall financial stability. So what we've seen with the financial inclusion, Findex, which is the bank measure of financial inclusion, is that really the progress at the last one in 2021, most of them were driven by technology, digital financial services. So let's see with the new numbers that are going to come soon, whether that trend is confirmed, but that's really changed the landscape. Now, of course, all this innovation comes with points of attention and potential risk. And I would highlight two main ones, which really are unique to fintech. So the first one is cybersecurity, and also the dependence of the financial sector on third-party service provider. This is new, this is a bit unique. We see more cyber attacks on financial institutions, as well as central bank and supervisor. So we need to be careful because there is an issue of trust and confidence in the system, potential financial loss, disruption of the financial market, and access to information. And so that's an element of increased attention. And just in July last year, you saw that there were disruption to SWIFT. There were also impact of the CrowdStrike outage. So that shows that we need to continue to be careful. And then big tech companies are also changing the landscape. They are new players. They have means and opportunities to reach customers that are very different. So lots of opportunities, but also sometimes raising challenges in terms of competition, but also supervision. And I will finish on that question with one very important message for financial sector supervisor, which is to think differently about the regulatory parameter. It's not just about what institutions are providing the services, but also what kind of services. And level playing field in that respect is sometimes a bit difficult. Should it be the banking supervisor? Should it be the capital market supervisor, the security supervisor? So we are changing. The blurring of the boundaries is an important element. Again, opportunities and risk.
That's quite interesting to know.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on. We've seen a significant surge in fintech funding in the MENA area. particularly 391% annual growth only in Saudi Arabia, according to the most recent figures. How do you think this increased investment will shape the future of the financial sector in the region in particular?
So in MENA, we see really significant increase in the fintech. That's really now a sizable industry, which is very welcome. MENA traditionally had a very bank-centric financial sector, so bringing these new players, opening the market across the financial services is really welcome. So more deal funding is coming. The numbers that we have is that it could grow to 1.5 billion in 2024. As you mentioned, the Saudi Arabia fintech market is expected to grow significantly in 2024. It could reach a size in terms of asset under management close to $64 billion. So very significant increase, which is really welcome because it's changing the system as a whole. It's improving financial inclusion, access to financial services. We see a lot of innovation. And it's also challenging the incumbent. So it comes with some risk, but it has a lot of benefit for the customers. And we see a new innovation coming around blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, reducing cost. Again, all this is to the benefit of the economies and the customers. Now, there is a balance between private sector and public sector, as always in this situation. So what we see, and we have very good example here, is also supervisor creating more space for innovation, balancing that with consumer protection and financial stability, but creating those sandbox, allowing innovation, which is very welcome. And again, we are all learning, sometimes running after the innovation of the private sector. So finding that balance is good. And I think MENA is really helping, and Saudi Arabia setting the example.
All right. Also very interesting stuff. Well, moving on to the next topic, which is interoperability. And I said it very well, because
yes,
I was
well
having
done.
problems. I was actually having problems pronouncing this word, and now I actually did it, and it's because of him. So interoperability standards are crucial for seamless cross-border transactions and remittances. What are, in your opinion, the key challenges and opportunities in establishing those standards globally for the fintech sector?
So, cross-border transaction, cross-border payment is a huge priority for the World Bank. I mean, just think about the impact on remittances in a lot of economies. So first, to the GDP of the countries, but also to the people receiving this money. So we want to make them faster, more efficient, more accessible, and more transparent. This is an agenda for the World Bank. This is an agenda for the global community. There is a G20 roadmap. And we are already seeing the benefit of fintech in cross-border payment, not as much as we would want, so this is the agenda of tomorrow. So you have application offering multi-currency payments and transaction. The fast payment revolution, which is at the moment very much a domestic one, in our view brings a lot of potential for cross-border payment because you can link together fast payment between different countries. This is the interoperability. And how to say that word is in itself complicated, but where you connect domestic system and allow for seamless transaction. That means a lot of regulatory works to make sure that people use the same standard and a mutual recognition, but by this direct link, you can be faster, more efficient solution, and this is really what it makes it also more accessible. And then there is a benefit for the economy and the customers. But for this, you need to have the foundations in place. And I think one important finding that we have is that the progress made at the domestic system, including fast payment, has benefit immediately on cross-border payment. So just a couple of numbers. The cost of sending remittances from Singapore to India when you use digital channels is already under 1%, which is 50% lower than when you don't use digital channel. So you see the impact on cost immediately. We see already global players, including SWIFT, connecting the system together. So we see a lot of evolution. But for this to happen, you need to put in place the foundation somehow from a regulatory and technological standpoint at the domestic level. So fast payment system, using them completely, opening the market, interoperability even domestically, so that you don't have silos between the system, ISO, so standard in terms of quality control. So we see a lot of progress at the domestic level, and really the next agenda is interlinking the payment so that you can connect directly cross-border, and that's where new technology, new innovation, and the fintech can play an important role.
All right, all right. Now, Saudi Arabia, let's zoom in a little bit more on Saudi Arabia. The kingdom has made significant strides in the fintech sector with initiatives like the Financial Sector Development Program. How does the kingdom approach compare to other global leaders in the fintech development?
So, I mean, the first element, when you walk around this conference, you see how vibrant fintech is in Saudi Arabia. So, congratulations to everybody here. It has really increased a lot, and a lot of innovation has happened. So, let me use 4 measures to see a little bit what has been done here that compares to the global agenda. So first, regulatory framework. So Saudi, both SAMA as well as the Capital Market Authority have created sandbox. This is really a way to create space for the private sector to innovate, to test new market, to see what are the potential benefit, but also unintended consequence. And this is completely at par with what has been done by big players such as the UK or Singapore. Second, dedicated and really deliberate support from the government in terms of investment. So there's been lots of strategic initiatives, such as the Financial Sector Development Plan, but also support to the fintech startup. And China has been also doing that, so you can compare Saudi Arabia also with what's happening in big jurisdictions like China. Public-private partnership. Again, all this innovation depends on really working together and not one against the other in terms of connecting shareholders. That networking, like is happening here, is really important, and you see that in terms of support to the ecosystem in countries like the US and the UK. And finally, talent development and education. This is really important, really providing the knowledge and the tools for the entrepreneurs. So there is a lot of entrepreneurship support, but also education and ongoing education. And this is also the part where there can be targeting to certain population, like women, which is really important. And India has also been doing that. So we see really Saudi Arabia being very systematic, very deliberate, and using and comparing to the experience of other jurisdictions.
So we have many things to look forward to see in this country going in this sector. All right. Now, given Saudi Arabia's national fintech strategy aims to have 525 fintech companies by 2030. Now, the recent figures show that as of the second quarter of 2022, which is now, we have 225 active companies. Do you think that this target is achievable?
So it's very ambitious, but as I mentioned, we've already seen a lot of development. So hopefully the Saudi authorities will be able to go beyond their targets. And I think there is a lot of momentum. So it's difficult to measure, yes, it's an ambitious or not. But they seem ambitious, and it's good to have ambition. And we were discussing yesterday with the authorities, they are also revising these targets on an ongoing basis. So I think we see also in other countries, fintech growing exponentially. So you are kind of momentum that is building out its own force to some extent. Now, I think what is important also is to look at the diversity of the fintech ecosystem. So gender diversity is one element, but also making sure that the fintech are tailoring their product and their offering to the diversity of the potential customers, but also working with other financial sector service provider. And the second element is that financial services is a means to an end. This is not the end in itself. So making sure that these new products, these new offerings are really benefiting to the day-to-day life of the citizen and the customers is really important. So you were mentioning earlier example of making it much easier to have access to credit and things like this, really important. So we hope that in addition to diversity and growing, there will be really an effort to make sure that this helps people in their day-to-day lives.
All right, all right. Now, the World Bank has been supporting Saudi Arabia in its fintech development efforts. Could you elaborate on the specific areas of collaboration and how these initiatives align with the broader goals of financial stability and inclusion in the kingdom? So,
I mean, so the authorities have their own agenda. We've been engaging, including learning from their lessons in that context. So I think as in other jurisdictions, we have ongoing dialogue with the authorities, including the Capital Market Authority, SAMA. They are also participating in a lot of the global agenda. So when you see in the G20, in the FSB, very present, we are learning for this, but also in this dialogue, contributing to helping them benchmark against both the global standard as well as what's happening in other countries. So as I mentioned, a lot is happening. We're also learning a lot out of experience, and we try to convey that experience in our own discussion in other countries. I think there is also a lot of influence at the regional level, both in the GCC and the MENA region more generally. So I think that all that momentum on opening the market and creating innovation and competition is very welcome.
All right. Now, I'm not going to finish the panel before going into this particular topic, which we already spoke about. Recent data shows that only 6% of founders in the 200 most funded Saudi startups are actually women. So it's only 6%. How can fintech initiatives be designed to promote greater gender inclusion and address this disparity?
So I think focusing on the needs of women customers, but also of women entrepreneurs, is really important, and a lot has been done already. This is a priority for the World Bank, and we see a lot of progress, but also being deliberate and targeted in bringing women on board, both in terms of financial inclusion and entrepreneurship, is really important. So there are different instruments that can be used, are being used, and sometimes it's stepping up, sometimes it's also learning the lessons of what's happening elsewhere. So the access to capital, so we come back to the capital available for the entrepreneurs, but also funding and grants that can be very targeted are really important. Access to funding, really important one. Mentoring and networking. So this is one of the lessons that we've seen, that support that is coming on more soft skills and soft engagement, really important, and sometimes also women networks in that respect, really important. Education and training, so already mentioned that earlier, super important, and a lot of effort are also happening. So policy and regulatory support. Sometimes it's a bit forgotten, but I'm going to give one example, which is getting sex disaggregated data. You have much more information and therefore more improved policy making. And on the other hand, it's the supervisor have a role to play. Consumer protection is one example, and also putting in place incentive for the financial service provider to better customize the product that they may have available. Awareness campaign, making it normal, making it natural, and promoting that explicitly, important. Inclusive work environment, so work-life balance, but also facilitating in terms of flexible working hours, parental leave, so that's the whole entrepreneurship support, also important. Resources, I already mentioned. And finally, encouraging collaboration between the various stakeholders so that it's not seen just as vertical, but really creating a level playing field and leveraging the contribution of everybody. So all of this is really important, and we see the momentum in that direction, and we hope that there will be even more impact than has been the case so far.
Okay. Now, my last question. As we look forward, what are the key challenges and opportunities that the fintech industry will face in the coming years? How can policymakers and regulators ensure that the fintech continues to contribute positively to financial stability?
So, I mean, as we've been discussing all along and seeing profound changes in the financial sector landscape, our assessment is that we are far from being at the end of that process. We are seeing also new technologies coming in that will continue to affect the financial sector, artificial intelligence being one of them. So a lot still to come and a lot to leverage in terms of what can be done. So I think what I mentioned earlier, which is the balance between innovation, new players, and stability risk being managed, constantly monitoring what's happening, and that has an impact, as I said earlier, on regulatory parameter. Look at the market structure, including avoiding issues in terms of competition. There can be first mover advantage, and this needs to be addressed, and continue to work both at the domestic and cross-border level. So we discussed cross-border payment. Financial integrity is also one of the elements. So, but we focus a lot on the benefit for the financial sector itself. New technology bring also benefit for the supervisor themselves. So all the elements around technology in supervision, technology in regulations, so subtech, regtech, a lot of potential to continue to exploit. and also so that the regulators are not always catching up, and they can benefit from that a lot. Improves also the monitoring and artificial intelligence, which we think can also help, including the data crunching that can be really important for the supervisor. So a very exciting environment, lots of things to happen, lots of things to learn collectively, including what's happening in Saudi Arabia, and the World Bank is very happy to contribute and be part of this discussion.
All right. Now, as much as I would like to keep on asking you so many questions because you have
Thank you,
really
Rina.
valuable insights, our time is up. So I thank you, and I thank all of the audience for being with us. I hope this has been insightful for everyone. It has been for me as much as I know. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.